evil, this punk, that hit Kevin, punk, this punk, click, this punk, that hit Kevin, punk, this punk, click.
All right, everybody. It is showtime. We're gonna stop the music. And oh no, I almost killed the stream, everybody. I almost killed the whole thing. There we go. Now we stop the music. So welcome, guys, to episode 14 of All Things Fantasy Grounds. I am here tonight, as usual, with my co-host Leroon and our special guest Andrew Kaywood, who is going to do drop some knowledge on us about Kickstarter. How you doing, Leroon?
I'm doing pretty good. Just been hanging out in the college and chatting with the staff, getting ready to wrap up spring break on Sunday and revamping the entire FGC server. So
Excellent.
That's what we got going.
And Andrew, how are you?
I'm fine. Hello, hello.
Hello. Excellent. We're going to get to all about who you are and what you do. I'm going to let everyone know that's watching that I'm going to switch the screen now so that you guys will all see what we see. And I'm going to be sharing various different screens so we can show you websites and so on and so forth. So before we get started officially, I do just want to let everyone know we got to do a disclaimer at the beginning of the show. And that disclaimer is that the All Things Fantasy Grounds talk show is meant to teach and help, but that the opinions stated by the three of us tonight are not that of Smiteworks USA LLC or Fantasy Grounds. So now that we have that out of the way, Andrew, why don't you tell people who you are and what you're all about?
Sure. So I'm one of those people who started playing D&D long ago, and I think it was so long ago that I'm pretty sure it was around 79 or 80. Not long after that, the Red Box came out, and I was into AD&D for quite a while. I didn't stay as a player very long. I became the DM really quickly, and I just fell in love with it. And around with one of the glory times in the 80s with AD&D and the World of Greyhawk and a lot of Gygax's modules. And then I, like a few people these days, I left the game for almost 30 years. Just come back for 5th edition. And started a weekly group, and as part of that, the World of Mir campaign setting. And my players really pushed me to have it, put it into some kind of form it could be published in. And 2 years later, we have about 27 5th edition products. And
awesome.
more to come, and a big Kickstarter right now as well.
Cool, yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Your story is kind of similar to mine, and I know Leroon's as well. I played D&D from 81 to 87, and then I took a 22-year break and came back for 4th edition, and I had never DM'd until 4th edition. I never DM'd when I was a kid playing. I was just a player, but I took a giant break and came back to 4th edition and had fun because I didn't know what I'm a huge 5th edition lover, and I don't like 4th edition. I did like it because I didn't know anything else, and then when 5th edition came out, I'm like, oh, this is the best. And so I know there's all kinds of edition wars and haters out there, but I'm a giant 5th edition guy.
Yeah, same here. I missed editions 2 to 4, so I can't say anything about those. But even from the beginning, even though it was such a great game, they've just made it so much more streamlined. It moves so well now.
Yeah, and I agree. And I one of the things I do like about it is that it kind of reminds me of 1st edition, the simplicity of it, and not as many, all of the different stuff they had in 4th edition. And I've taken a look at 2nd and 3rd edition and 3.5, and then even though I've converted like 12 different modules for Pathfinder for Smiteworks, I've never played that game, and I don't think I'll ever touch it, to be honest with you. But that's just me. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So welcome. I'm glad you're here tonight. I did post the link to your website that we're seeing on the screen, so if you guys want to go to it yourself, it's in the chat. So you do have a quite prolific, what we would call library of stuff, and so I'm gonna show everybody that too. So I'm gonna post a link in the chat. So if you guys want to follow along with this, over at the DM's Guild, this is all of Andrew's material over there. Now, I have, how I met Andrew is some of this stuff is available in Fantasy Grounds, which is clearly marked. If you go there, I've done some of his work from PDFs to Fantasy Grounds, but not all of it is Fantasy Grounds. So you guys just need to be aware that when you're looking for this, a lot of it is PDFs without the Fantasy Grounds. Knock wood, it all comes out in the future. We don't know, but he's got quite the library over at DM's Guild, and then he also has different items over at Drive Through RPG, which I will post for everybody. And in case anybody's watching that doesn't understand the difference, the items that are on the DM's Guild are 5th edition items that the creators there are allowed to use any intellectual property from Wizards of the Coast except art. And if you do something on Drive Through RPG, then you have to pretty much stick to the SRD material or the OGL. So including the Fantasy Grounds modules that I've done with him, he's got 13 on the Guild, and it looks like 13 on Drive Through as well. So that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's been a busy 2 years.
Awesome. And we are going to give away a prize tonight at a random time throughout the show. We're going to give away the Mirror Bundle 1. So let's take a look at that. And Andrew, do you want to tell people exactly what that is, the Mirror Bundle 1?
Yeah, sure. So this bundle gives you the campaign setting, the World of Mirror continent. So eventually there's going to be 9 continents in the world. This is the first continent, which is also named Mirror. So with this bundle, you get that first continent setting, which is about 300 pages. You get a high definition map, high-res map of the world of that continent. And you also get the first 3 adventures in a series called Adventures in Mirror, which goes up now to level 20, and the last 3 modules in that will be coming out soon. And each of those 3 modules are double modules, so each of them has 2 adventures in it.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
awesome. So whoever wins that tonight is going to get these material that he just went over, and it amounts to 560 pages worth of stuff. And keep in mind, everybody, that this is in fact a PDF item. So even though we're doing a show about Fantasy Grounds, and I've done some work with Andrew with Fantasy Grounds modules, and we hope to continue to do that in the future, the particular prize that we're giving away tonight is just PDF. So I don't want anybody to freak out when they misunderstood and thought it was for Fantasy Grounds, but no, this is just PDF. But man, and $9.95 for all that? That's crazy. That's an awesome price. That's super awesome.
That's great.
560 pages divided by $10. What is that? A half a cent a page? I don't even know how to do the math, but that looks pretty awesome. So stand by, guys. During the show, we will give away that at some random point. And I'm pretty excited about it. Can I enter the contest? Is that fair? Oh, I guess I can't do that.
Yeah, Rob is in. Yeah,
I'm in.
And all of the mirror campaign settings too. I've really built it so that anyone can put their game in it. It's not made so that there's no real obstacles for you putting your own game in there, unless you've got your campaigns on the elemental plane of fire, or you're in an all vampire world or whatever. But if you're in the traditional fantasy world setting, you can easily put your game into those settings.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's what people enjoy most, is something that they can play aside from any of the official stuff, but also stuff that they can put their own world, mix and match and sort of create a patchwork for what they want to do. That's really awesome.
We had a comment in the chat.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna have to do it now. Sorry to interrupt, but Clancy says, yeah, still looking for that Fantasy Grounds flavor of Mirror. I knew that was gonna come up because I said the same thing.
Yeah, we'll work on that for sure.
We're working on it. Just as a little aside for McClancy mentioning that, I will go right over here to the spreadsheet. As you guys know, I have a spreadsheet for everything. Down here at the bottom of my list, where I have future projects listed, I do have. Where is it? Oh, I think I changed it.
I think it's just above the there. It's at the bottom there, underneath Frog God, where it
Underneath.
says Dungeon Masters Bundle 2.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yep, Dungeon Masters Bundle 2.
Mm-hmm.
And also the Monsters of the Feyland Kickstarter I have down here
Yeah.
as possible. So we're going to talk about that actually. That's a great way to get into speaking of that, because there is a current Kickstarter that Kwood Publishing has, and I will post the link in the chat for people. And Andrew, do you want to tell us about Monsters of Feyland?
Sure. So one of the big things we noticed with 5th edition is a real lack of Fey creatures, and that's not a knock on Wizards. They have a lot of things going on, and they had only a certain amount of monsters they could put in the monster manual. There is a big gap there to fill, though. So what we wanted to do is make a monster book with, it's going to have 100 5e monsters, mostly Fey, but a few other types. And we also thought it would be great if it was the same artist throughout the book, and have it full color, hardcover. And so you can see some examples here of the first monsters. We're actually getting in touch with people on Twitter too to get suggestions for the next few monsters, and doing a live AMA on Kickstarter. So you can see here, and what we're going to do is have more dynamic formatting than what's there as well, where the creatures blend with the text of the stat block and things. So it'll look quite similar to the core book. This is an example here. You can see this is the Skeleton King. This is a new one that Travis has just finished. And this one was actually voted for by fans on Twitter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and in addition to the hardcover book, there's this module, for example, at one of the backing levels. There's, of course, a Fantasy Grounds version. And
Yes.
there's also custom-made dice. There's a map book. There's an NPC book. And again, the main theme is Fey, and to really play with a lot of those dynamic abilities of Fey creatures, again, that's not really represented. So things like emotion and beauty and time. Like right now with that Skeleton King, I'm just finishing up the stat block for him, and he's going to have time stop.
Oh, snap. Time
Wow.
stop. That'll fuck some shit up.
Yeah,
I
so
love it.
he's kind of got a few lich qualities, and then he's got a bunch of charm kind of abilities, hypnotic abilities. He moves incredibly quickly. He can summon skeletons, including Minotaur skeletons. So we want to play with a lot of those Fey abilities, and we'd love to have a book full of that. Right now, we're closing on 60% backed, and we have about 2.5 weeks to go. So it's on course.
Cool. And just to let everybody know, because I have a personal stake in it, the prolific Rob Toohey has worked with us a number of times. If this first stretch goal comes up, there will be a Fantasy Grounds version, and that 23,000 is Canadian. So wherever you are, Kickstarter will convert this for you. So for example, that's 23,000 Canadian, which is 17,145 American. So if you click here, you can see what the goal was, 22,000 Canadian, and then if it gets to 23,000 Canadian, the Fantasy Grounds will kick in. So if you guys think this is cool, you should not only back it, but you should go tell everybody about it so they can back it too. And then there are further stretch goals, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about the other stretch goals?
Sure. Yeah. So the dice here, these are from Q Workshop, a great group in Poland. They make a bunch of beautiful die. So there's two versions here of our logo, the Griffin logo, which are part of another stretch goal. And then there's another stretch goal for another connection to the world of Mir, because the continent of Nairn, the Feyland, basically merges with it. So it would be a booklet for the third continent in Mir, that stretch goal. And then the last stretch goal that we have right now is another adventure module.
Cool. Yeah, so there's a lot to be had there.
Yeah,
so
you
yeah.
can see there's even
Oh,
merchandise.
there's the guy. That's
Yeah.
not Andrew, by the way. That's not you.
That's the Redbubble guy. Yeah.
Oh, is that the guy who's on who every T-shirt you see that's got him standing
Yep.
there? Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. We just gave him some free publicity. Yeah.
So yeah,
And then there's a few other things. Yeah.
Again, you guys should definitely check this out. How long is the video at the beginning?
That video is pretty short, and it just explains again what I just did about what the project's going to be like.
Shall we play it?
It's a little bit longer than that. I do
Is
have a
it?
really
Okay.
quick. There's a really quick version on YouTube.
Oh, let's go look for it.
Yeah, if you just type in Monsters of Feyland, there's a 30. It's about 30 seconds, so it'll be quick.
Okay, let's see if we can find that and we'll play it. Here it is, right here.
Yeah.
So we'll
There
let
you go.
everybody know. Hopefully, it's got you in it.
Coming this fall
No.
for
Oh, you're not in
5th
it,
edition. A monster collection like no other. Keywood Publishing presents Monsters of Feyland. Enter the realm of the Fey.
Yeah.
100 monsters
Is the sound there?
illustrated by Travis
Yeah, it
Harris.
is.
Desktop
Oh,
audio.
okay.
The Black
Yeah, you
Unicorn,
can't
the
hear it,
Fey
but the stream
Ranger,
can
Yeah.
hear it.
the Winged Goblin, and 97 of their closest friends
Yep, I
and
can-
enemies. Stretch goals include a Fantasy Grounds version, custom-made dice, an adventure, and a campaign setting. Visit the Kickstarter page for more information.
This is the Kickstarter page for more information. I love it. Who's that voice you got? Who is that?
That's me, actually. It's
Is
just
it really?
my.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Wow.
That's
I thought he
yeah, I don't-
hired.
You mean I don't sound like that all the time?
No,
Yeah.
you don't. None of us do.
I thought he hired Dyson Logo.
Yeah, I so thought you got like a voice actor to do it. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a pretty fun video. So
I have
yeah.
a really talented guy in my weekly group who's done a lot of the graphic art for us, and then he's also done the videos. So he modulated my my movie trailer voice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Auto tune.
So, oh yeah,
That's
auto
right.
tune exactly. So if you guys have questions as we're going along, those of you that are watching on Twitch right now, you guys can post your questions in the stream, and we will answer those. So I'm pretty excited about that Kickstarter. Not only because I might be involved in actually making part of it, but just because I think it's a cool thing, and I agree that Fae are very unrepresented and underrepresented in 5e right now. So that is awesome. Do you want to tell us, Andrew? This is your 4th Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
And so, would you like to tell everyone who's watching that might be thinking about doing a Kickstarter? And I realize, the explanation for that could be 6 hours, but do you just want to impart your wisdom on, how that's gone for you and what you've learned and how that process all works?
Sure. I especially come from humble beginnings because the first attempt was unsuccessful. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert, and the people I've worked with making them are either. But we have a little bit of experience there. One of the things that might be a surprise to you, but I'd say, the first one of the reasons it wasn't successful is I just had no footprint. I had no online footprint. I had never made a product. So I think that's a very challenging place to start. I'd also, say that right at the beginning, you want to look at, obviously your costs, including having some extra cost factored in there. You want to really be careful of shipping. Shipping can really throw your Kickstarter off. I would say my experience so far is it's a better idea to have it tacked on as opposed to being part of the price of the Kickstarter. I'm also saying that I must say that Canada might be a little bit different because shipping here is very expensive.
Yeah.
And
oh, go ahead.
yeah, so yeah, costs and then time. You want to make sure the timeline is right. Most Kickstarters that I personally have backed have been far over their time period. Like I know one, it took about a year more than what they said. So I think to make sure that you're being fair to your customers, you want to have a reasonable time period. And we've been pretty successful with that. The last 2 Kickstarters were successes. They weren't huge. We were trying to raise about 4,500 Canadian. Not a huge amount, And we didn't have a ton of backers. We've had a lot more already for this new Kickstarter. And you want to make sure that I think your tier system makes sense in what you're offering for backers and what are the extra rewards. One of the big things I'd say, which I think surprises most people, is that collaborating I think is really important, and it's a definite important part of publishing and the community for 5th edition or RPGs in general. But at the same time, I think not enough is said about people just doing your thing.
Yeah.
If you wait until you think you have a perfect product, or if you think until you've made everybody happy, you're going to be waiting forever.
Yeah, and
So
I've seen
my biggest advice, my biggest advice, Rob and Leiron, would be do your thing. Seriously,
thing.
like I said, you for sure you want to collaborate. For sure, getting like I've had people in my weekly group help me. I've had amazing guys help with maps. The artists I've worked with have been incredible. For sure, that's part of the process. But one of the biggest things that I don't hear enough people saying, just about creating, period, is seriously do your thing. Like, don't wait. Don't listen too much to what other people have to say. Otherwise, you're never going to get something done. You're never going to make everybody happy. But creating it's one of the most amazing things you can do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I used to be a professional stand-up comedian, and I know for sure that there's nothing you can do, no matter what creative process you're involved with, to please everybody. So you just have to
Exactly.
do your thing. That's really great advice. Um, I would, and back to what you were saying about the your timeline. I actually don't know why more Kickstarter people don't do this, but I would think you would want to lean toward under promising and over performing. Like if you think it's going to be done in April 2019, maybe say July 2019, and then if it's
Yeah.
early, everyone's gonna love you, but if it's late, everyone's gonna hate you, right? So yeah, you got to be
Exactly.
careful about your
Exactly.
timeline. And then does Kickstarter? I hear people, I get updates from people that do Kickstarters, and they
Mhm.
talk about we're waiting for the funds to clear. So I know Kickstarter
Right.
takes a portion of the funds, but they also take a long time to deliver those to you. Is that not true?
No, that's not true.
Oh, it's not.
No, they take around 7%, so they have their nice cut. But you've got a platform that you're having access to so many people. And then no, it's usually, I think it's in that first week or so. They take their cut. They check. They're checking out everything. They're making sure that people are matched up with their backing amount. No, it's usually fairly quick. It's usually, I think, a week and a half or something at the most.
Oh, okay. So that doesn't seem
No,
too bad.
no. It's a really good platform.
Yeah, and I've of course I have a huge problem. I've backed about 1 million Kickstarter things, but I love it. I think it's great. And so we did want to talk here also about Fantasy Grounds specifically because there have been. I'll just give a little prelude to this. And there's actually, for those of you watching the show, I will put a link in the chat. That there is a Fantasy Grounds forum entry about this from Doug, because I've worked with a couple people on Kickstarter, and I've done it where those projects were going to the Smiteworks store, or the alternative, which is they sell them privately, or maybe they fulfill on DriveThruRPG, or something like that. Now, for those of you that don't know, you're not allowed to fulfill a Kickstarter on DM's Guild. That's one of their terms of services, but you can do it on DriveThruRPG. And again, we explained the differences between those. But if you're someone out there and you're thinking about creating something and you want to have it be for Fantasy Grounds in the Smiteworks store, where you go to the fantasygrounds.com and you can buy it there, that conversation starts with Doug Davison at Fantasy Grounds. And if you don't know that name, then the first thing you got to do is find out who I'm talking about, because that's the guy that is the president and co-owner of Fantasy Grounds, and anything that goes in the Smiteworks store has to be talked about with him before you even consider putting that on your Kickstarter, because It's got to be all pre-approved, and you have to go with through the process with him. Now, if you're doing in the case of what Andrew's doing in this Kickstarter that he's running now, that's not going to be something that goes in the Smiteworks store. It'll just be something that goes on one bookshelf or Drive Through RPG, which is perfectly fine. That's what that's set up for. That's set up for an avenue of sales for people who don't want to have to mess around with getting it officially put into the Smiteworks store. The difference is your exposure, right? So if you're in the Smiteworks store, everybody who owns Fantasy Grounds sees that. And if you're on Drive Through RPG or DM's Guild, you're hoping that other fans see it, but you're going to see way more PDFs and stuff than you will virtual tabletop stuff. But are there any, as far as you're concerned, Andrew, are there any do's or don'ts, not just with Fantasy Grounds, but just with anything about Kickstarter that you would want to advise people on?
I'd say, you really want to be planned. You want to have a really good plan, like I talked about, in terms of costs and money, or sorry, time and costs. The other thing, yeah, like I said, in terms of a plan for advertising and your strategy, you want to make sure you have a list of people that you're contacting right at the beginning. You also don't want to use all of your resources at the beginning of the project and then it run out of steam. So you want to kind of hold back a few things. And something this time which has helped so far with the Kickstarter too, which it's actually been the artist, Travis Hansen, who's helped me a lot because he's done multiple Kickstarters, just in having more art and, again, staggering the art out throughout the Kickstarter. And making sure that you're interacting with people. Polls is a really great thing. The last 2 polls we did for this Kickstarter for people to choose the next monsters in the book. I've got, I think, 300 votes over for each poll. And the last poll, it came down between the Frog Witch and the Elder Tree. And I didn't explain in detail what these 2 monsters are going to be, but this was the only thing that people had to go on. It was only about 3 or 4 vote difference after this 300 vote poll. So I think, again, interacting with your community, and this is the sketch of the Frog Witch, the winner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you sent me that today, and I just started laughing. I could not stop laughing.
Yeah.
I love it, and that is a fantastic piece of advice for anybody that's thinking about doing a Kickstarter project, is to engage the community, not just your backers, but engage everybody and have people vote on polls and which monster you like better, choose A or choose B, and this engages people outside of the backers as well that might say, hey, you know what, let me check this out and maybe I'll hop on board as well. And I know that Cobalt Press just did their Creature Codex one, and part of their thing was that if you backed it, you got to submit a monster. And I submitted a monster. Yeah, it didn't get picked, but that's okay because I'm going to be doing the Fantasy Grounds conversion for that, so I'm excited anyway. But they did a really good job of letting people submit monsters. Then they had a panel pick them out, and then they sent them out to us on email to play test and stuff. It was pretty cool. But yeah, engaging the community is a big time deal. And speaking of engaging the community, let's take this opportunity to give away your prize, the Mirror Bundle 1. So I am going to start in the chat, everybody, a keyword raffle. So if you want to win Andrew's Mirror Bundle 1, which we showed earlier, and I'll bring that back up here. That's not it. Yeah, is that it? I don't even remember. I should have left it. Nope, that's not it. That's your website. Here, this is it. Go ahead and enter the keyword mirror. That's exclamation MYRR. Just go ahead and enter that, guys. And when that 5-minute timer runs down, we will in fact give away this prize, which is the Mirror 5e Bundle 1 on Drive-Thru RPG. That again has all these modules, and again PDF only, not Fantasy Grounds, just PDF only, but a fantastic lot of adventures and settings and maps, 560 pages worth of stuff. So it's pretty cool. And for those of you that don't win, if you want to buy it, it is only $9.95 on the DM's Guild. And I will once again post the link in the chat for you guys in case you want to check it out.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah,
on Drive-Thru.
What did I say? DM's Guild?
Yeah.
I meant drive-through. It's all such an incestuous pot for me. I do everything. So yeah,
All
you're
the
right.
same publisher.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's the one bookshelf, but the drive-through section of it. Yeah, so I put the link. But yeah, if there's questions in the chat, let's get to those.
So my question is kind of a personal one, and I was um, telling a student in FGC that you were going to be on tonight, and she's a huge fan of your products, and I think she owns most, if not all, of your PDFs. Her name
Cool.
is Alexandre in our server. She's
Yeah.
on the cusp of wanting to publish her own stuff, but I think she needs the experience and that little nudge.
Mhm.
I haven't seen a lot of her work, but I know that she's got good organizational skills,
Mhm.
and she's interested in helping you guys convert some of this stuff over.
Hmm.
So I'd like to introduce you to her at another time and maybe arrange a little chat or something.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
She's in the chat right now.
Yeah. And she's a fan of Rob, and she likes your work too. So I think that person would help you guys out.
yeah, I'd be interested for
just for
sure.
the experience alone.
Yeah, we've
Um,
actually been looking for a digital platform for Mir, and and looking at, like I said before, with you guys improving our maps, which finally we've done. Are not the continent maps; those are by Philip Stephen. Those I think are really beautiful.
mhm.
But our other basic maps for modules and things like that. So now that we've got that figured out, I think we're ready for a Fantasy Grounds conversion or something like that.
Right. And another question, as Bofferin was asking, if you take care of the finances, or how do you track all that? Because he was kind of wondering, like, he's not asking you how much that is. He just wants to know, like, what that entails, like what that part of it, that piece is like.
The piece for the Kickstarter?
For the whole campaign, yeah. For budgeting and all that good stuff.
For the Kickstarter itself? Like, how do you...
No, I think he's talking about the publishing of it and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right now we're not a very big group. So originally when I created Mir, and it was for my weekly group, which we're still using, the first product was the World of Mir book, which then has been updated. So it's been a pretty quick growth from that one product to having 27 products, and then now we're also in a bunch of collaborative projects. So yeah, we've taken care of all the funding. I mean, the big cost for us is usually art. We've had in-house layout, which improved a lot, I hope, and the maps I make, and the editing I do. The graphic art, luckily, I've had a guy in my weekly group who's helped out, Jeff Porter. He's the guy who did the videos as well. But the big cost, and it's true for most of the writers that I know for 5th edition or for RPGs, is art. To get good quality art, it's going to cost you. So finding those people, I would say, is a really, that's the main target. And luckily, I've found people all over the world. And then now working with Travis, really hunting for those people, finding a good price, and then finding a way that you can do it so it makes sense. I know people who pay for their own layout, who pay for their printing, who pay for the art. Not a lot of those people are making a profit. So a lot of the people who are making a profit, they're doing their own work.
Yeah, the more you do yourself, the less you have to pay out from or the less you have to ask for people to back it, because all that stuff costs money. So
yeah.
All right, we are going to draw a winner. As a matter of fact, we had some people enter the contest, so I'm going to draw a winner right now. And Steelbeard88 has won the package, so congratulations to you, Steel. Steel, if you'll PM me in Discord your drive-through RPG email, I will get that to Andrew so he can award you that prize. And for those of you that had an interest in that prize and weren't able to win, I suggest that you go to the link and just buy it, because it's awesome. And I know we've had more questions in the chat, Leron. Did you want to get to the next question?
Yeah, Perry Chalmers says need an editing helper. So Perry in the chat was asking if you need an editing helper.
I think if you're asking from me for resources, I think one of the best things I've found is on Facebook. There's a group, the DMs Guild fan group.
I think what he's asking is, would you need help in via his services?
Yeah.
I think that's what he's asking. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yep.
for sure. If he wants to get a hold of us on Twitter at KWood Publish or email us kwoodpublishing@gmail.com, for sure. Yeah, we're always looking for people to work with. I often have artists contact me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. So if you want to contact Andrew on his Twitter or email him, I'll bring up his Twitter account here. Oh wait, how do I? Oh yeah, you do this. You go at KWood, and then there it is, and then you click on it, and then go there like that. Should work, shouldn't it?
You're in the. There you go. Yeah.
I don't know how to use Twitter. I've never used it more than about 50 times a day. So yeah, so he's available at KWood Publish, and you guys can follow. Hopefully you'll get some more followers today too, so you guys can follow his. That's what Andrew looks like right there. That's also I have a friend I went to high school with, Wayne Spitzer. You look just like that guy, which is freaking me out. Yeah, it's freaking me out. But you guys can go follow him on Twitter as well. And we'll take last questions. If you guys have more questions, put them in the chat now. And we're not wrapping up quite this second, but if you had anything else you wanted to let people know about, Andrew, now's the time. Do you have anything coming up, or anything else you want to make sure people know about that you already have that maybe isn't as well known, or any other projects? Or I'll leave it up to you to say whatever you want.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the main thing we're doing right now, and you can see on the Twitter, there is the Kickstarter for Monsters of Feyland, and that's going to go for another 2.5 weeks or so till April 14th to get that backed. So we pretty much do everything in 5th edition. We make the handbooks for the Dungeon Master, Game Master. We make adventures. We make the campaign setting. Ours is called World of Mir. We also on Instagram have pictures of our game with the miniatures and everything laid out.
Oh, that's
and
really
then we
cool.
also
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's a lot of fun. I'm really new to Instagram, so I was surprised. And when we went on there, we had about 2,000 people join in the first couple of weeks. So I was really surprised. Yeah.
I'm not Instagram so much, but
if you go, if you just put KWood Publishing in the search, you'll get us. Yeah, it's something really new for us, and it's been very, yeah, right there with the logo.
Oh man, oh my God!
Yeah, so there's you can, if you scroll up to the top, you can see our regular table with the World of Mir continent map. So there you can see what that's our weekly group.
Oh my God! You live in Canada,
Yeah.
you say? Damn it, I can't get in that group. Yeah.
You're not that far. You're just across the border or so.
What city do you live in?
Vancouver.
Oh my God, that's just like about a 6-hour drive is all.
I think our next guest player is Mr. Tui.
Nice, I'll be there.
And Layroon.
I need to renew my passport. But yeah, that's awesome. And then you said that were there pictures with you guys using the minis as well?
Yeah, if you go further down there past the Kickstarter information, so in here we have like some of the miniatures and there's some fights there you can see with giants.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are those the tiles that you made, or are those the WotC?
Yeah, those are the old Wizards tiles. They have new
I
ones.
see they've got
new ones out.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, pretty cool.
So there you can see it really helps a lot of people to learn about the game and see what the game looks like. I know I was listening to you, Rob, and you were talking about how much important combat is to you still in the game, and and I'm the same way. Not that I don't have role play and I don't have exploration, but to me, a lot of the game is still focused around that. I mean, that's why we have armor classes and hit points and attacks. Well, you know, and it changes. The last session I had, and that was the other thing I was going to say, that on iTunes, you can check out our group called West of the Wood on iTunes, and you can listen to our actual play, our weekly group. And our last game, actually, which this one's not up yet, but almost all of it was role play. It just really depends on the story, but you know, I think it's more interesting. Well, definitely for me and for my weekly group, when there is quite a bit of combat and action, and we do try. You know, we have a balance. And here you can see
and
some
I'm
example.
I'm a big everybody who knows me knows I'm a big, you know, like combat guy and mechanics guy. But I think what that's from is from when I learned the game as a teenager. The most exciting thing about it wasn't that you were going to adapt this personality of a character and become a, you know, that's what that game is about. But it was that,
Yeah.
hey, we can get together and roll these dice and add it up, and do I have enough to kill you? And you know, we were
Yeah.
teenagers looking to kill shit. And I think that's just, you know, I'm a 13-year-old boy who's in a chronological body that's 4 times that number. But you know, I've really never grown up, and so, you know, role playing to me just never caught on as a thing of itself. But you know, I always make sure that when people play in my games, if I'm DMing, they know that in advance. And
Another question.
yeah, go for it. Let's have a question.
Boffrin's asking if you considered contacting such as someone like Reaper Minis to get a line of your own.
No, that's never come up, but that's a really good idea. We are huge fans of a certain brand of miniature for sure. And if you see our Instagram there, you'll see we usually tag them. Yeah, that's something we never thought about. I mean, all this is really new, and a lot of this has happened very quickly. So the idea of having custom dice was, you know, we never thought about. So it's a good idea. Yeah.
A suggestion I have is find someone who really likes 3D printing,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe get your sample, and then go from there. Maybe.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We actually do have somebody in our group who 3D printed coins we have for our for mere coins. So we have a starting place there anyway.
I just subscribed to your podcast. Awesome.
All right. So yeah, we have the full range of 5th edition.
Cool. I put the link to your podcast in the chat for people as well if they want to go and look at that. So that's awesome.
Cool.
Cool. All right. I think we covered a lot. We covered everything that we thought we were going to cover. Were there any more questions in the chat before we wrap this up? And Andrew Kaywood fades off into the business world of creating the next tweet and the next Instagram photo and and all the stuff you have to do behind the scenes to get all this stuff done. It's crazy and it's insane.
So I had a question for you.
Oh yeah, go. You ask your question there, Rune.
Okay, we have a huge server, like 1,800 plus people in our FG college.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if sometime in the future, maybe after this Kickstarter and after all the distribution's been done, if you'd like to come in and kind of touch bases with the community, and hopefully by then we'll have the Fantasy Grounds version of it and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd definitely be interested.
Maybe even bring some of your friends, kind of address the community as a role-playing group and as your product, of course, and your branding. And we can do a little something similar to this, but it won't be Kickstarter. We'll obviously focus on the Fey book. But, you know, anything like that. If you got any, or if you need any help advertising or anything, just let me know. Okay,
yeah, no, that sounds good for sure. And even having a weekly group, you know, like I couldn't have made Mir. I would not have been able to do a lot of what I do. And really, it's the perfect playtesting environment for pretty much everything we put out. So maybe, you know, somebody from our group as well could join in as well.
Cool. All right. I think that's it, isn't it? That's everything. We talked about the Kickstarter. We showed people the Kickstarter. We We told people to go back the Kickstarter, and then we gave away prizes, and I think we covered everything.
Hey, Perry Chalmers in the chat. He's a fellow Canadian, by the way.
Nice.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we've
there's
got many Canadians that I've hooked up with in the last couple of years because of Fantasy Grounds.
yeah, there's a few Canadian D&D players, 5th edition players.
Cool. Well, guys, if there's no more questions, I would like to thank our special guest, Andrew Kaywood from Kaywood Publishing, for coming on the show today. And I hope you guys will all go back his Kickstarter. If you're watching the video on YouTube, I will have the link below so that you can click on that in case you missed it and go and check it out. That ends April 14th, 2018. So make sure that if you want to back that, you do that before then. And just to let everybody know, on Sunday's show, we've got David Middleton. That is the digital DM. If you know who I am, you know who he is. Although that does not work in reverse. If you know who he is, you might not know who I am. But if you know me, you know him. So you guys can come and check that out on Sunday. We'll have David here to talk about all things everything. And on behalf of my co-host, Leroon, and my special guest, Andrew Kaywood, I'd like to thank everybody for watching the show today. And we will see you next time. Good gaming, everyone.